What's up, everybody? My name is Sam Frampton, and today I'm going to be telling you all about mycoremediation. Today's standard of living is very reliant on oil, both directly and indirectly. The biggest oil-consuming activity by far is transportation. This means planes, trains, cars, and boats. For the amount of vehicles on the planet, this means there must be a lot of oil handy to supply those vehicles. However, no matter how careful companies try to be, due to the overly massive amount of oil that must be maintained, and also due to humans' natural tendency to make mistakes, this makes oil spills almost inevitable. There are two types of oil spills: water oil spills and land oil spills. Oil spills in the water can happen in two ways: from contaminated rivers feeding into the ocean, or directly into the ocean. Because of the nature of oil and water as substances, oil will spread quickly as soon as it contacts the water, making it near impossible to contain and clean as soon as it touches the water. When oil gets into the ocean, fish are constantly exposed to and breathing it. Thus starts the cycle of fish being contaminated with oil, bigger fish eating those fish, and then larger animals and birds eating those bigger fish. And this causes a ripple effect to spread of contaminated organisms contaminating bigger organisms and killing off and seeing rapid declines in various populations. Land oil spills are similar in damage level, but different in detail, and perhaps far more direct in the effect on humans. Underground, there's a whole universe of interworking organisms and natural systems, similar to those above the ground or in the atmosphere. These organisms, some that we can see like bugs and worms, are all involved in keeping soil rich and nutrient-filled so that plants may grow and life may sustain itself. But when there is an oil spill on land, the oil degrades the soil. This means that vital nutrients or active organisms have died or are no longer a part of the many underground cycles, which keep soil rich and alive. A whole section of the biosphere is suddenly not working when this happens. When the soil is degraded by any toxic substance, plants can only survive with the heavy and constant reinforcement of chemicals and fertilizers, which degrades the soil even more so. This means that farmers cannot farm, and also land already degraded from oil spills that has the potential to grow crops is being wasted. When there is no grass or natural plants for wild animals to graze on, they are forced to migrate and share smaller grazing spaces, which ultimately will degrade that new land because it is not able to regrow itself in time to provide food for so many animals. And when there's no soil, that means there's no plants, which means no animals, which means no humans. While efforts are being made to move forward in a more sustainable direction and leave a smaller footprint on the environment, the problem still persists that the footprint that has already been left is far too big to ignore. If something is not done sooner than later to take care of land degradation and oil spills, many species and natural systems are going to be at serious risk. Paul Stamets, an award-winning mycologist and environmental activist from Washington, may have found an answer. Stamets is credited to discovering several new species of mushrooms and for coining the term mycoremediation, his original, tested, and proven theory for using mushrooms as a form of bioremediation. The specific definition is the use of fungi to degrade or sequester contaminants in the environment. Mycoremediation was first officially tested in 1998 at a highly contaminated truck drop site in Bellingham, Washington. 3 sites at the truck drop were involved in the experiment. One was treated with a chemical mixture, one was treated with mushroom spores, and the third was left alone as a control variable. After just 2 weeks, the chemical pile remained unchanged with the control variable, while the mushroom pile was covered in hundreds of pounds of oyster mushrooms. Just 1 week after that, while the chemical pile still remained contaminated, the oyster mushrooms had already died, and their decomposition attracted bugs and worms, which attracted birds and other small animals, turning what was a poisonous, degraded spot of land into an oasis teeming with life. The main role of fungi in the natural ecosystem is primarily decomposition, which acts as a natural cleaning mechanism in soil, so the soil stays healthy. Similar to roots of plants, fungi roots are miles and miles of a truly magical underground network of something called mycelia, which are the most delicate and durable, maybe even most vital element of any biosphere. Mycelia are theorized to act as a sort of communication network between different organisms through subtle shocks and jolts of data, similar to how the internet works for humans. When mycelia root and spread, enzymes are secreted and used to break down molecules, the same concepts of stomach acids in our stomach digesting food, except what is secreted is soil nutrients. Hurricane Katrina is a great example of a recent disaster that needed many efforts to recover from. Mycoremediation specialists took data from experiments such as the one in Washington and developed a simple yet genius way to mycoremediate contaminants downriver of waste and debris to protect surrounding soil in the ocean. By putting cardboard, coffee filters, some compost, and mushroom spores wrapped up in burlap sacks, the researchers were able to make very successful filters for river water that slipped through the holes of the sack and were passed through the thick layer of soil and mycelia. Mycoremediation has many great specific uses, such as treating industrial wastewaters, fungal treatment of distillery and brewery waste, remediating pesticide degradation in soils, dioxin and hydrocarbon neutralization, and certain mushroom species can be used for bioabsorption of specific heavy metals. For example, shaggy mane mushrooms can be used for arsenic, cadmium, and mercury. Elm oysters can be used for dioxins and wood preservatives, and phoenix oysters can be used to clean up TNT, cadmium, mercury, and copper in any environment. Some of the pros to mycoremediation treatment of soil and water is that mushrooms survived the Ice Age. Mushrooms are what refurbished the soil so that life as we know it could be brought back to Earth. This is one of the reasons that mushrooms are so versatile. They can survive in a variety of environments or natural conditions, as opposed to other remediation processes which require specific conditions and environments. Another pro is that using mushrooms is a natural remediation method. It's nature's self-restoration tool, so there are no worries or fears about the long-term effects of any synthesized formulas or chemicals. Furthermore, mycoremediation is a self-sustainable technique, and there are minimal resources needed. All you need is mushrooms, which grow very easily, quickly, and grow and populate in abundance. It is extremely cost-efficient and requires very little maintenance and effort. The only true con that I have found in all of my research to mycoremediation is that there is not enough funding being put towards it, and not as much research attention is going towards the technique. Nor, unfortunately, the problems and events themselves such as oil spills and land degradation in general. So what's in store for the future of mycoremediation? I think that the future is optimistic for mushroom specialists such as Paul Stamets. As the world gets more and more broken by man's footprint, and as the repercussions become more and more immediate for us as well, people are going to start turning their heads and looking for ways to move forward and clean up what has been left behind. What we must remember, however, is that the only reason mycoremediation was discovered in the first place was because there was a huge mess made by men that needed to be cleaned up. To prevent such situations in the first place and moving forward, you can contribute in simple ways like carpooling to consume less fuel, using electric alternatives to oil-based products, and even cutting out plastic consumption will play a huge role. When people stop using and producing the amount of oil that they are now, chances of an oil spill are greatly reduced, and if the current damage can be cleaned up with mycoremediation, we can start to restore the soil to its full potential and truly reciprocate to the earth all of the care it has provided for us. Another way to help is to learn about and utilize fungi in your everyday life. Paul Stamets is also the founder of his own family company, Fungi Perfecti, which focuses on providing quality mushroom-based health and gardening products. Directing monetary funds towards companies with this kind of vision is the indirect but most impactful way to contribute to this cause. Thank you for listening to my presentation and watching it.